Okay, here we go. Hello, hello. So this is my second attempt at making a video about my experience with schizophrenia. Um, I've been able to completely recover, believe it or not, but it was pretty bad at the time when when I first had the psychosis. Uh, Sometimes people talk about the stages leading up to the psychosis. The only thing I can think of that was really closely related was that I had this sensation, this burning sensation, just a little bit, not very much, just a little bit, and I heard the words, "Are you ready for the tribulation?" And at the time, I thought it was God talking to me. Maybe it was, "Are you ready for the tribulation?" Anyway, so when that was like a couple years before, well, maybe 3 or 4 years before psychosis, and then when I did have the psychosis, is that it hit me all at once. So in the previous video, I didn't say how it started out, or I didn't remember, but it started out with I had these like caps on my brain or whatever. They were like starting to pop off, pop off, pop off, and then I started getting these hallucinations and it started getting worse, and then it hit me, really bad, and all the flames and fire was closing in around me, so that I could only see tunnel vision. It just got so small. I was just looking through tunnel. I could only see through tunnel vision, right? So, so I sat down, put my head down to get the blood to rush to my head, and it had absolutely no effect on the tunnel vision because I thought I was blacking out, going to go to hell or whatever it was, and I started having these delusions of, after initial the initial thing was that before I got the tunnel vision, I saw in front of me letters, and I heard a voice reading out what the letters were in front of me, and they were like flaming letters or whatever, and then the fire or the flames closed in on me like tunnel vision. So I didn't know what to do. I thought I was gonna, like I said, maybe go to hell or something, or there was just no hope for me. But anyways, I just persisted. I just kept waiting. Slowly, the flames, tunnel vision, opened up again, and then I was able to see clearly. But I still had a whole bunch of hallucinations. I had, like I said, the caps popping off in my head, and I had spiders running around my head, and voices. I was talking to Moses and Paul. I named them Moses and Paul, and so there was these. That's how it started out. The personalities, and then I had like in front of me, like, what do you call that? A dashboard. I had a dashboard with all these instruments and stuff in front of me, and then after a while, the dashboard didn't seem to work anymore. That went away, and then there was other hallucinations and stuff. For the first 3 days and 3 nights, I wasn't able to sleep. I wasn't able to sleep at all. Didn't sleep, and I didn't eat. Maybe on the third day, my the room place where I was staying, the guy says you got to eat something. And I said, well, okay, I'll eat it just a little bit, but it was just put something in my mouth, kind of swallowed it, and that was it. It wasn't. I didn't actually eat a meal. But that was 3 days and 3 nights. The third night, I slept. I got to sleep, but these hallucinations would be waking me up, and as soon as I got to sleep, or as I was sleeping, they were poking me in the eye. They poked me in the eye so hard, it literally hurt. My eye hurt from these hallucinations poking me in the eye so much. Um, so then, of course, I was afraid. I didn't go outside this whole time, and I was afraid to go outside because I thought it was the end of the world. But after 4 days or whatever it was, maybe 5 days, I got the courage to go outside, see if it was safe outside. And so I cautiously went outside because went to go get some food or whatever. And people were acting really strange. They're like jumping in front of me and everything. And it's like everything was different. And then of course I'm having delusions of grandeur, think I'm the greatest person in the world because of these persecutions or whatever. And then I'm thinking, oh, might be the false prophet or something. So it's back and forth with these delusions of grandeur, and then you think you're the worst person in the world, and you don't know what to think. So then, so I went to work and or went back to work or whatever. And oh, the lead up, yeah, there was a lead up. So the lead up, I was working at this place, this landscaper, and I had this foreman over me, and I would be doing these miracles on him, and of course I was doing telepathy, reading people's minds, or so I thought, and communicating telepathically to people, telling people to look here or to do this or do that, whatever. So I was doing these miracles with this foreman guy, and he got really frustrated and aggravated because I would anticipate his strokes with a rake. He'd be raking, and he would be doing like this, and I would anticipate his stroke. I was doing exactly his strokes that he was doing, and he got so frustrated and angry with me. Anyway, he ended up firing me. He didn't. He wasn't authorized to fire me. My boss said you're not fired. But anyways, after a while, they realized that I was wasn't right. There was something wrong with me. So they took me in. Well, it was actually the boss's wife. Started asking me some questions. Looking into my eyes. Of course, my pupils were dilating like wildly. They're just dilating like this. So she's looking at my eyes and asking me questions. Of course, I'm speaking gibberish, some stupid stuff or whatever. So then they say, well, let's go for a ride. And I'm thinking, wow, the people in the church are finally, recognizing or noticing I'm there. They're taking me out to eat or something. They're going to take me to the restaurant, and we're going to have a good time talking, have a lot of fun and everything. Well, they stopped at the hospital and said, okay, you have to go up to see the doctor. And of course, I wasn't too pleased with that. And but I complied. I wasn't, depending on how you acted previously, depends a lot how you act after you become schizophrenic. So you get, if it's possible for you to do just about anything when you're schizophrenic, but if you didn't do it before, then you're likely not going to do it after either. Only, only you, if you had any thing in your mind to do before that you might have done, there was no limitation on what you would do. There's no restriction on what you would do if you wanted to do it, right? But anyways, I went up and talked to the doctor, you know, he asked me questions, look at my eyes, dilate my eyes and everything. And then they said after I talked to the doctor, they said you have a choice. Either you take the medicine that the doctor is going to prescribe for you, or you have to go back home to New Jersey because I was in Chicago at the time. I had been going to the Bible school. I dropped out of Bible school. Of course, there's all pressure on me, and I couldn't afford the Bible school, and my face was breaking out with acne or allergy because of, I guess, a wheat allergy or something. It took me forever to figure that out. But anyways, so there's a lot of pressure on me, about because I was working for this landscaper, and come to find out, the the illegal aliens, or whoever they were making more money than I was. They were making for like $7 an hour or something. I was making three, or they were making whatever it was. I was making like three something. They were making twice as much as I was, and I'm a illegal American, so there's there's no way you can make money that way. There's no way you can get ahead that way, getting paid that much back in the day. 375 or whatever it was. No, it wasn't even. I don't even know if it was that. It was really bad. Anyways, so I said, well, what kind of choice is that? And they said, what do you mean, what kind of choice is that? I said, well, this is not much of a choice. Of course, I'm going to go home to New Jersey. So it turns out that where I was staying, the guy was, fairly wealthy. He's, he offered to take me back home to New Jersey. So I went back home to New Jersey. And of course, we flew out to New Jersey, and I was still hallucinating the whole way. And I was like, the spirits or angels or something were flying in front of the airplane, stuff like that. I was hallucinating and everything. Reminds me of the movie where the guy looks out the window and sees. Anyway, so we arrive at the airport, Newark Airport, and we're walking through the corridors over there, and there's a big glass window. I walk by, I keep walking, and my friend that took me to New Jersey, he's looking out the window. He says, come here. I said, what's he looking at? So I go back, and he looks down and sees some mechanics working on a tow truck, towing something or doing some kind of mechanical work, right? He says, you can do that, right? I said, yeah, I can do that. Because I had spoken to him earlier about maybe being a mechanic for him if he ever wanted to go into some business or something. I could be a mechanic. They say, you can do that. I say, yeah, of course I could. Long story short, I ended up getting that job many years later, or a number of years later. Well, it was many years later for a practical purpose, because I went back home to central New Jersey, started working at Great Adventure, still hallucinating, worked on a roller coaster, hallucinating, talking to co-workers at break time, still hallucinating, telling them, speaking gibberish and stuff like that. And then later on, I got a job at making trailers, still hallucinating, but I had learned by that time not to tell people what I was seeing, hearing, and thinking. So, and then after that, I just joined the army. I says, the army's a good place. Maybe I'll learn something. Maybe I'll be some good in life, because I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know what it was that's happening to me. I'm thinking, well, maybe I could be of some good. Maybe I can do something in life. So I joined the army. That was in '82, and and I didn't know what it was that I had. I didn't, I couldn't tell them, oh, I was schizophrenic or whatever, because I didn't know what schizophrenic was. I just knew I had a problem. They asked me, "Did you get hit in the head as a kid?" I said, "Yeah, probably, probably got hit in the head as a kid." But I passed the physical because I was in good physical condition and everything. So I passed the physical, and I took the training. Went to what they call AIT. Then I went to Fort Knox, and then I went to Germany. And it wasn't until uh, 1985 that I realized or found out what it was that I had, because I went to England and I saw a documentary on schizophrenics. But by that time, I had been recovering because I did something interesting that made the hallucinations go away and the delusions. Well, it's both delusion and hallucination, and you have to deal with them both. And so you basically have to deny or not believe what you believe, which is not an easy thing to do. I mean, I had to change every habit of thought that I had. So, in other words, that meant no more telepathy, it meant no more miracles, it meant no more casting out of demons. It means you're not the greatest person in the world. It means you're not the worst person in the world. All these delusions and hallucinations. If you saw hallucinations, you just ignore it, because it only it only has an effect if you think, oh, I saw a hallucination. Oh, look at that, it's a hallucination. Oh, look at that. But if you ignore it, it means you're no longer afraid of it. You're no longer in fear, and the hallucinations and delusions will lose their powers. Because what happened was, I was in a Bible study before I went to New Jersey. I was in a Bible study, and I got into an argument with the teacher of the Bible study. And he did he would act, he seemed to act like I wasn't even there, like I was a nobody, until I got into a discussion with him, an argument about something, and all of a sudden he noticed I was there. It was all of a sudden I was a person there in front of him, which is the strangest thing. But anyways, as I was arguing with him about, some truth or something, the hallucinations kind of like went off into the background, which is the strangest thing. It's like what happened to the hallucination? Where'd they go? They're like way off into the bad work, background woodwork or whatever. They're still like, you know, around the perimeter, and then slowly it started coming back. The hallucinations and the voices and everything. I thought, wow. So when I was in the army, that's what I decided I'm going to. If that's true, if you don't pay attention to them and they go away, well, why don't I just not believe in them and ignore them completely, right? So that's what I did. And I had to change all my habits of thought, because when you have, some kind of experience or something, your mind reacts and responds by way of a whole series of habits, of patterns of thought that you have regarding that situation, that thing. So all of that, all of those things that you think about or that you do almost subconsciously. You think subconsciously, oh, this is this, that's that. You have to like change everything you believe. I mean, when you're hallucinating, your delusions and everything, any any visual things you see or whatever, you're going to have a mental response, a mental you know how they put, if they test you to put little things in and ask you what you see, what you think, or whatever. No matter what it is that you see, you're going to have a mental response or a mental reaction. And that every single process of thought that you ever made habits previously, you have to change all of those habits of thought. In other words, you can't do miracles anymore. You can't cast out demons anymore. You can't, do telepathy anymore. For the sake of your sanity, right? That's what I was thinking. Well, even if it is true, because it seems very true to me, and it seems very true to a lot of people too. And this is really real. It's really real. But I'm saying to myself, even if it is real, for the sake of my sanity, I'm gonna act as if it's not, or believe that it's not real, and I'm gonna act like it's not real. I'm gonna ignore it and not believe in it. And after a year or so, or whatever it was, of doing that, they the hallucinations they basically just lost their power and their effect over me. They don't have any reason to exist if you don't acknowledge them. If you don't acknowledge it, and your delusions aren't delusions anymore because you're not believing things that aren't real, you know. And so that's how I recovered. It would took in a matter of 3 years or so. Well, if I had done it sooner, maybe I would have recovered sooner. But it took like something like 3 years for me to recover, and I was still thinking, well, in 1985, I'm still thinking, well, because I had just recovered, but I'm thinking, well, this stuff's going to come back. I'm thinking I'm going to have a psychosis again, even especially after seeing the documentary in England about the schizophrenics. I said, wow, that's what I had, because by that time I was, getting over it. I was recovering, but I still had this idea of, I don't know if it's going to be permanent or how long it's going to last or anything. You know, 1986 came along. I got out of the army, started working and everything. Just kept on, reinforcing the new habits of thought and everything. And that's how I recovered from schizophrenia. Which is like a 24/7 thing. It's 24 hours, 7 days a week. You have this torment. It's basically just torment. And the worst thing about it, you're emotionally tied to it. You're emotionally tied to this personality that you think you are or whatever, and you're emotionally tied to the hallucinations and the voices and things like that. But you have to give it all up. You have to give it up. If you want to be sane, if you want to recover from schizophrenia, you have to give everything up. All the hallucinations, the voices, the noises, whatever. Because you hear noises too, like bangs, explosions, and all kinds of crazy stuff. And but you have to like just treat it as if it doesn't exist, ignore it, and it loses its power over you. Where you're no longer in fear of it. You no longer fear it. You're supposed to fear the absolute truth. You're supposed to fear truth, not a delusion. You're not supposed to fear things that aren't real. You fear things that are real. And that's how you recover. That's how I recovered. Now, of course, not everybody's the same, and not everybody's going to be able to do what I did. Maybe not as effectively, maybe more effectively than what I did, but majority of cases, I don't think, a lot of the cases, I'm sure, would have a hard time recovering as fast as I did. Sure, of ignoring all hallucinations and delusions took me like say 2 years to recover, and then you're thinking, well, is it going to come back? Is it going to come back? But it never did come back. Never came back ever. Because you just, if whenever you see something, hear something, whatever, you just ignore it. So what? So what? It's not real. It's not going to change and affect your life in any way. You don't have to be afraid of it. You don't have to fear it. So that's the story that I wanted to tell in the previous video that I wasn't able to. I had to go work all of a sudden. But um, there is hope for many schizophrenics for sure. Now, of course, I feel bad for people who are born with schizophrenia, people with severe, people with they weren't raised right or something, and they have their actions are just horrible and everything. And I just, and it's hard for them. And then of course, they end up being forced into the hospital and stuff. Whereas I was fortunate, I didn't take any medication at all, and I wasn't forced into the hospital because I didn't do anything serious enough, or I wasn't caught doing anything serious enough to be forced into medication. So, um, well, I guess that's about it then. It's not that bad. But the thing, if if somebody's like on medication, it complicates things because you have now you have the withdrawal symptoms. You don't know what's due to the medication, what's due to the schizophrenia. It's like it's kind of confusing. It's all the same thing, but it's not really the same thing because it complicates. There's complications if you're on medication, and if you wanted to like uh, get over schizophrenia completely, entirely, like what happened to me, you probably need support. I mean, I didn't have any support. I didn't have any counseling at all. No medication, no counseling, no anything. I just happened to stumble on or see what was the root cause of schizophrenia because it's all symptoms. All these things that are classified, thought of as schizophrenic are all just symptoms of the root cause, which is the fact that you're believing things that aren't true. So when you believe things that aren't true, that opens the door for the possibility of these basically what are like spirits to like take over and really torment you, 20, 24 hours a day, you know, every day for months and months and months and years. So it's to me, it's the only way you can completely get over it. Now, people do sort of get over it sometimes, but they're into like diet or something. They're into like maybe exercise or something. But the fact of the matter is, they're not paying attention or not paying as much attention to their hallucinations and delusions. And as long as they ignore them and they're doing something else, they're not going to be as affected by the hallucination delusions. But of course, it's probably not going to work for everybody because probably everybody's not going to be able to not believe what they believe, which is not easy. You got to change every habit of thought, every thought process that you ever had. You got to question everything. Everything, all your immediate thoughts and beliefs, you got to question it and change it, which is all habitual. Everything we do is like habitual. Because when you do something, you're forming habits. So you think it through, and then you get a habit, a thought pattern or habit, and you just keep it in the back of your mind, and you go about doing what you do, and you develop your skill in whatever it is, and if what you're believing is not true, then that's what opens the door for the symptoms of schizophrenia. When you believe something that's not true, I mean, really believe something that's really not true, and it escalates, it compounded, and that's when psychosis occurs. But it's all symptoms. Like I said, it's all symptoms of a root cause that is depends on what you believe. It's a result of what you believe. So, anyways, I hope this helps someone. I was getting people telling me that I should make a video on this channel about schizophrenia. So that here it is. That's what it is. This is how I recovered, and it's the best I know. It's the best I can do. But the interesting thing is that doctors don't even want to consider the possibility of recovering from schizophrenia by doing what I did, is not believing what you believe. Because, of course, it doesn't involve medication, it doesn't involve counseling, so they're not going to profit in any way. But besides that, they don't want their reputation tarnished. They don't want to get into something that's questionable, or maybe radical, or you know not confirmed scientifically or something like that. They're supposed to be doctors. They don't want to ruin their reputation being associated with someone like me who recovered by simply not believing in the hallucinations and delusions. Even though it's a long, involved process. It's not easy to do. But if the doctors really cared about schizophrenia, curing somebody, offering help, you don't want to tell the person that it's okay to have these personalities that you talk to and stuff like that. Say, oh, that's okay. That's nice. That's cute. No, that is the problem. That is the problem. That's probably you're talking with somebody that's not even there, and so you have to, even if it is real, you have to not believe in it. Because then there's this idea, well, you're special, you're seeing things that are special that nobody else sees. Yeah, you're basically communicating with evil spirits or whatever it is. Because they do have like a personality. They do respond depending on what you do, which was the strangest thing. When I got into an argument, it's kind of like they all got scared and went off into the background. And I got finished talking to the guy, and it's like, where'd the hallucinations go? And then they slowly came back. It was the strangest thing. It's like their personalities, their entities, is what it seemed like. But anyways, they torment you. They are the reason for your torment. your friends that you talk to, your imaginary friends that you talk to or whatever, the good ones, the bad ones, and they're all bad anyways, but they're they're your enemy. I mean, they're the reason why you're tormented, because you're giving respect to something that's not real, it's not concrete, it's not actually real, not relevant to your life. So you need to ignore everything that's not relative to your life. And that includes all your voices and imaginary friends you talk to or whatever, and the delusions too. You have to get rid of the delusion. You can't think like, oh, you're Elijah, or you're the false prophet, or you're whoever, right? You can't be thinking you're the greatest person in the world, or you can't be doing telepathy. You can't be doing miracles. I mean, if you're really doing miracles, you wouldn't be tormented by it. You know, it wouldn't make you crazy. So, for the sake of the sanity, I gave up on all these miracles and all these things that I thought I was doing, I were able to do, and that is the reason why I recovered from schizophrenia. There is no other possible reason that I recovered, because otherwise I would still be probably relying on government assistance, but instead that was in 1985 or 86 when I recovered, and I got out of the army, and now I'm about ready to retire. You know, after working, remember that airport job that the guy was looking out the window and said, "You could do that job, right?" I worked there 30 years and retired. I only retired when the pandemic hit, and I didn't want anything to do with it. I want to get as far away from the pandemic as possible in 2020. So I had some property that I had bought with a 401k. So I went out to the property, hid out in the woods when the pandemic hit. And then I ended up getting it anyways, because I had to move from New Jersey to the Midwest. So as I was moving, I walked into it. I had to go to the bathroom. I had walked into the bathroom, and I got hit with the pandemic thing, and with all the symptoms. I didn't have. Fortunately, I didn't have all the symptoms that other people have. Really bad ones. Maybe it's a blessing in disguise that I have nose problems, but maybe that kept it from penetrating my head so much and everything. Even though I did have a headache, and it was a different kind of headache, of course. It's a headache kind of moves around your head and stuff. It wasn't schizophrenia. But anyway, yeah, I'm just wondering if maybe it knocked out the malaria, because usually or often, if when you get sick with a cold or something, when I get sick with a cold because I had malaria, I would have a rebound of malaria. I would come down with malaria again. So that's why it seemed like that happened. So for about half a day, about 12 hours or whatever, I came down with a high fever. And to me, I had the chills and everything, just like I was having malaria. But it only lasted 12 hours. So I'm just wondering if the pandemic didn't knock out the malaria. And then, I only had a fever like half a day, but it was like chill. It was the whole thing, chills, fever, and everything of malaria. And then it stopped. And then I had kept on having the pandemic symptoms, for like weeks later or whatever. And I might have had it one more time, but then that's all I ever had. I never never got, anything worse than that, and it's already 2024. Expect to retire here in a few months, on Social Security, fully retired with a full, Social Security and everything. Because I've been working, of course, since 1982, basically. Well, I worked before that too, but paying into Social Security the whole time. Not that it amounted to very much to begin with, but since I got out of the army, I've been working. I kept on working better and better. I would jump from one job to another job, working, trying to work my way up, and eventually I got this job at the airport. And it was a friend from the church that told me to go fill out an application. So it wasn't really something that I'm responsible for acquiring, because the I filled out the application. They didn't call me back. But then the guy that told me to go fill out the application goes and talks to the guy and said, "Did you hire this guy?" He says, "Oh, no." So he told me to fill out the application again. I did. So when I got hired, this guy's trying to explain to me how good the other guy was that he hired instead of me, which was, he was a good guy. He was a friend of mine too. But anyways, that's how that worked out. Like, he, the only reason why I was hired was because of this guy at the church that kept on insisting that this guy hire me, and turned out that we didn't get along. I didn't get along with the boss. I got along with the guy that he hired, but not with him. He was like, he was a for another airline, lifelong employee, whatever, but he didn't, he wasn't that nice of a person, at least not to me, Anyway, so that's about it. And if you want to not depend on the system and have your freedom, because to me, my freedom means everything to me. I don't want to be controlled. I don't want to be confined. I don't want to be told what to do. And especially if it involves taking medication or saying you can't go here, you can't go there, you have to stay here. No, that's no fun. That's not fun. Nobody likes that. I'm not the only one that doesn't like that. But if you want your freedom and everything, you have to be able to have a clear mind, a clear head to deal with life situations. And the crazy thing is that I had to trust my crazy mind I had to trust my schizophrenic mind more. Well, this is why the doctors don't like me too, probably. I trusted my schizophrenic mind and my decision making process, whatever, more than that of the doctors and the doctors' recommendations, which is, of course, the doctors aren't going to like that, but I had to make a choice, and that's what I did. I trusted my own thinking above that of the doctors, and I'm better for it. I'm glad I did that. But because when you're schizophrenic, you don't, you're not supposed to trust your own mind. You don't know who to believe or what to believe, and you're supposed to believe what the doctor says and not what you think. But it worked for me because I didn't do anything to get in trouble, even though I was seeing and hearing crazy things and speaking gibberish, and my pupils were dilating like crazy. I look in the mirror, started having an argument with a person in the mirror, and it was like there was another person in the mirror, and and that person got really mad at me, started yelling at me and everything. You know, this stuff you can't make it up. I mean, this actually happened to me, where my own reflection in the mirror was yelling back at me and angry with me and everything. And that's how it is when you're schizophrenic. You know, it's horrible. It's like just torment, just straight torment that you can't get. You're in a prison of torment you can't get out, and you can't go to sleep. You can't go off in the woods. You can't go anywhere to get rid of it. It's going to go with you until or unless you ignore it, completely ignore it, not believe in it, completely disassociate yourself with all your hallucinations and delusions, and then they no longer have power over you because they're like entities. They're like actual beings that come and go, you know. And it's really, really bad thing, bad situation. And it's all symptoms of what you are believing about yourself, about the world, about, I would look at the TV and cast out demons and people and billboards and headlights of cars and cast out demons and stuff. It's just total nonsense. Anyway, I hope maybe somebody can see this and maybe be encouraged not to reject the hallucination, to reject the delusions, to reject everything, and to just ignore it. Don't believe in it. Don't do crazy miracles. Don't do telepathy. Don't do anything. Just give it all up because you have to give it up because you're emotionally attached to it. Even though it torments you day and night, you're still somehow emotionally attached to it. You have to let go of it. You have to give it up and it'll go away. You'll lose it, but then you'll be sane. You'll be able to act normal again, like a normal person. Because I like to say, I'm normal, even though maybe I'm not so normal, but I'm just normal now, more normal than I was. I'm normal again. I'm back to my old self before the psychosis happened, and it's a horrible experience. But I'm glad that I have a solution for it if someone is able to do the same thing that I did, not believe it. Change all your habits of thought, and it'll go away. It'll have no more power over you because you're ignoring it. You don't believe in it. It has no more power over you. You're no longer afraid of it. You no longer fear it. You know. So that's it. Hopefully everybody learns from this, and God bless everybody because there's still a creator. You know, there's no physical thing can create itself. No physical thing can order itself. There's still a creator, including time, because time is a result of the formation of matter, which has gravity, and gravity is what slows down time and shortens distance, which makes possible our existence. It's all a real fabrication. It's all real. So it's temporary. It's a temporary fabrication, but it's all real. Real fabrication is what I like to call it. Even though in science, nothing is permanent, nothing is absolute, but the only thing that really is absolute is that we have a creator, and only our creator can recreate us from the inside out by the power of his true word as no one else ever can. You can take that to the bank. That is the absolute truth. There is no other truth. So God bless everybody, and hope to see you soon, maybe. Well, maybe I'll make some more videos, but I had to make this one because I promised somebody that I would make this video on this channel. So God bless everybody. Take care.